breath. We're going to do a cat-cow variation now. So when we're ready, we're going to float up to a 4-point kneel. You're going to take an inhale breath and lengthen through the crown of the head and tailbone. On the exhale breath, you're going to curl and round through the spine and sit the bottom back towards the heels, reaching the fingertips forward. Inhale forward, lengthen. Exhale, curl and round and sit back. Keep flowing with this breath and maximizing that nice stretch through each position. And we're going to set up after this next one back in that nice 4-point kneel position for our variation on horse kick. We're extending the right leg out nice and long behind us, reaching through the toe, floating that leg and drawing the knee into the chest, curling, scooping through the abs before extending nice and long. Being careful not to overextend and arch through the back, keep the tummy nice and tight. We're going to hold the leg out on the next one. And the supporting leg, we're going to tuck the toes, pressing all the way up to a one-legged down dog. Nice big press back through the spine. And then we're going to come forward into that nice high plank, driving the knee in between the hands. Little pulses up, really squeezing into that tummy. And pressing all the way back out. Come all the way through now, stepping the foot between the hands rather, dropping the knee and coming into a nice hip flexor stretch. Taking a nice inhale, lifting the arms up towards the ceiling, sinking the shoulders down and back, reach through the fingers, really sitting into that nice stretch. Then coming around, finding your child's pose, relaxing here for a moment, taking a nice deep breath. And then coming up once again, finding that kneel position, big scoop and sink into that hip flexor stretch. We're going to find some length in those hamstrings now. So rocking back onto that heel, flexing that toe to ceiling, and then foot flat on the floor, find that nice stretch through the hip flexor once more. Switching between these two positions, really flexing the toe up towards the nose, folding from the crease of the hip, and lengthening out through the front of that hip flexor. Tuck the toes back, press into the downward facing dog and drop the heels into that mat for that final extension. And then we get to repeat it all on the second side. Taking the left leg now back behind us, we find that float, scoop and tuck of the lower abdominals before we find that extension. Keep squaring the hips and find a nice scoop in those abdominals, not overextending in that back and crunching into the lower spine. Finding that nice press back and extension, really reach that leg up towards the ceiling, drop the heel, and then floating forward into that high plank, drive the knee between the hands and find those pulses. Suck that belly button to the ceiling and scoop those abs, really pressing right up to the front of the mat before reaching all the way back. Then stepping the foot between the hands and coming into that nice release of the hip flexor stretch. Deep breath in, reaching those fingertips up towards the ceiling, shoulders down, sinking deeper into that stretch. And then pressing all the way back to the downward facing dog. Dropping the heels, press the chest to thighs, find that extension, and coming back into that kneeled position to find that hip flexor stretch once more. And then we will be taking that length through the back of the leg into the hamstring with flexing the toe to ceiling and coming forward each time, sinking deeper into each stretch, folding from the crease of the hip, chest to thigh. Then replacing the leg, tucking the toes and sending the tailbone high for your downward facing dog. Getting getting that nice stretch through the spine and really melting the heels down into the mat. And walking the hands back towards the feet, grabbing hold of the elbows and just hanging here nice and heavy, feeling that stretch through the backs of the legs and releasing any tension from the upper body. Extending the arms to wrist and take a nice inhale, tap the fingers to the floor behind you and back to center. Repeat this process here. Nice inhale breath, slide the ribs to hips and back to center. On the next exhale breath, we're going to float the head, neck and shoulders off the mat and reach towards the ankles, sliding the ribs towards the hips. Continuing here with the abdominal curl, and remember you can always interlace the fingers behind the head if you feel you need more support. On the next exhale breath, we're going to hold the curl and walk the feet out so that we lengthen the legs across the mat. From here, we're going to perform a full roll up to a seated position before curling and rolling all the way back down to the mat with control. If the full sit up is too much today, remember you can go back to the half curl, or you might like to put your feet flat on the floor to perform the full sit up. Only 2 more to finish this series. Really draw on that breath to help you. Almost there. And release. Well done, guys. Interlocking the fingers now behind the head. We're going to exhale, curl and float the right leg up towards the chest, returning the foot down to the floor, followed by the left. Gazing towards those knees, sliding the ribs towards the hips, drawing the belly button towards the mat. To advance this maneuver, we are going to extend through that leg now so it becomes a nice straight leg. Otherwise, feel free to stay in the tabletop position. To advance this position further, we're going to now extend that bottom leg out nice and long in front, creating an L shape. Return to tabletop and extend the opposite leg. Keep reaching through the toes, gliding the rib cage towards the hips and drawing the belly button down. Remember, you have the option to take 1, 2 or 3. Let's finish out the set no matter where you are with a quick change, whether it be in tabletop or full scissors. Really reaching through the toes, stay floated with the shoulder blades and releasing it down. Well done, guys. Starting down on your mat in a floated tabletop position, we're going to start to pulse the arms. Option to bring the feet down towards the mat and continue with the arms, or bring the head down to the mat and continue with the arms. Let's begin to reach the left leg out long in front, followed by the right. Continue with pulsing the arms and trying to float those shoulder blades as high as possible off that mat. Remembering to use your breath, gliding your ribs down towards your hip bones and drawing your navel down towards the mat. Option to rest the head down on the mat and continue working the legs. Final 2 here. Last 1. And hug the knees back in towards the chest. Well done, guys. Just releasing any tension from the neck with a little side to side. And just having a little moment to catch your breath before returning back to that tabletop position once again. Taking the inhale breath, we extend the arms overhead and reach the legs long in front. Swim the arms back around and tap the outside of the leg. To advance this, we can always float the head, neck and shoulders, really sliding those ribs towards the hips and drawing that navel down towards the mat. Feel free to alternate between the 2 positions if you need to come down to the mat and continue working, especially if you're feeling any strain through your neck and shoulders. Finding now a quick hug to chest before extending the legs back up to tabletop and out long on the diagonal. We're then going to lift the tailbone up and away from the mat, reaching long through the toes and using those lower abdominals to help us scoop away from the mat. Finding your final two. And releasing down, hugging these into chest, giving a little rock side to side. Long out in front of you on the mat, and then interlacing the fingers behind the head. We're going to come into an oblique curl now, so floating the right leg to tabletop, staying on this side, so continually bringing the left armpit towards the right knee. Let's glide the ribs down towards the hips and find that nice rigging out through the waist as we take that nice big exhale up and over. Getting ready to change out for the other side now. And continuing here. Now bringing the right armpit towards the left knee. Constantly being aware of your body and mindful of your correction points, focusing on the rib to hip connection and pelvic floor lift. Let's begin to alternate the legs here, so coming back to that right leg, followed by the left, reaching opposite armpit towards the knee. Let's really float those shoulder blades up and off that mat and wring out the waistline. Final four, in 3, in 2, last one, and release down. Well done, guys. Nice big inhale and release. Well done, guys.